Joining me right now is Texas Senator, Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and Senate Judiciary Committee member Ted Cruz. Senator, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
Maria, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So, okay, you've got the mask mandate ending in Texas, and now an opportunity for business all around Texas, the opportunity to operate at 100% capacity. Tell us about this and what you think about California's governor criticizing it.
Well, I think it's great news. I think Texans are ready to get back to work. Texans are eager to get back to work. I think as we look across the country, the lockdowns have proven to be a serious mistake, and they hurt millions of people. They destroyed lives. They destroyed small businesses. And people are ready to get to work. We can be smart. We can be safe. We can practice social distancing. We've taken reasonable common sense steps to slow the spread of the virus. But the answer isn't to destroy millions of jobs. And the answer isn't also to keep millions of kids home from school. And I got to say, Gavin Newsom, there's a reason the guy is facing a recall in California, that his policies were too disastrous for the liberal Democratic voters in California, because he has shut the state down. He's destroyed jobs. He's hurting kids. By the way, the kids that are being hurt the most by Democrats shutting down schools are low-income kids. They're African-American kids and Hispanic kids. The data are showing that many kids are 6 months or a year behind, and that educational harm will be with them the rest of their lives. It is wrong. You know, the Democrats like to say, follow the science. They're not following the science. The CDC says, send kids back to school. It's safe to send kids back to school. And yet you've got a whole lot of Democratic politicians that care about that money from the teachers' union bosses more than they care about the kids. Only 40% of school children in America right now are in person, in class 5 days a week. That is an outrage.
Wow.
And when you look at Democrats who don't seem to care about these kids that are being abandoned, I will say there's a reason Gavin Newsom is unhappy, because every year we see thousands and thousands of Californians fleeing California and coming to Texas, and the fact that we're open for business and they're shut down is only going to accelerate that phenomenon.
Well, I think this school conversation is so important. So let me stay on it for a moment. What is behind this, Senator? I mean, let's look at this stimulus plan. There's more money in this stimulus plan for schools. There was money in the CARES Act for schools. What did all of this money going to the schools accomplish if the teachers won't get back to work? Do you have any idea why kids are not in school, in-person learning at this point?
Well, you know, some years ago, the head of one of the big teachers' unions was asked, how come you guys don't advocate for kids? How come you don't fight for the kids? And the answer was, well, you know, kids don't pay union dues. And this is right now a very cynical thing. And frankly, it's not serving the teachers. There are teachers all across this country who are incredibly honorable, who love their kids, who went into teaching because they want to make a difference. But their union bosses have decided the best of all outcomes is to keep getting paid and not have to go into work. Well, you know, that's not in the interest of the kids who are going to school. And to see the Democrats, they literally, the head of the CDC got up and said, kids need to go to school. The science is clear. Kids need to be in school. And the Biden White House walked that back, said, no. That was not in any official capacity. That just was at a White House podium, the head of the CDC saying what the science says, because Democrats' view on the science, unfortunately, is very convenient, that they call it science if it agrees with their partisan agenda. And if it doesn't agree with their partisan agenda, never mind, don't look at it. You know, you mentioned this $1.9 trillion massive spending and pork bill. This bill, 9% of the bill is focused on health care needs and COVID. So 91% of the bill is not about fighting the pandemic. The money for schools, a lot of the money for schools in that bill is for years in the future. It's not even for right now. We have a crisis now.
Right.
But what this bill is it's a liberal wish list. It's every priority the Democrats have of paying off their political cronies. It includes, by the way, a bridge to Canada for Chuck Schumer, because apparently a bridge to Canada is how we're going to defeat COVID. And it includes what's being called the Tunnel of Love, Nancy Pelosi's Tunnel of Love, a tunnel in Silicon Valley that she wants constructed. And I get that their priority is bring home the bacon and buy votes, but this is irresponsible and it's wrong. And it's important to note, in the last year, we passed 5 bipartisan COVID relief bills. Republicans are eager to work together on getting vaccines out, on fighting the virus, on getting people back to work, on helping small businesses. And we've demonstrated we'll roll up our sleeves and work with Democrats. Joe Biden and the Democrats have said to Republicans, go jump in a lake. They don't want to work with us. They don't want to talk with us. They are going to try to ram through a partisan wish list completely unrelated to the pandemic because they got power and they don't want to waste the power. And I think that's really cynical and it's unfortunate.
Well, it is unfortunate, and I guess it tells us that the Republicans can't do anything about it. Are you going to take up this bill today in the Senate? What's the timing on this? Because there are ongoing debates that remain on what's in it, this Democrat push for a $15 an hour minimum wage. Bernie Sanders says he's planning to try to overrule the Senate parliamentarians' block of the $15 minimum wage. Some cuts, they say, have been made to the proposal. That Silicon Valley area rail expansion, we're told now, was taken out of the bill. Is that right? The $100 million for that?
If it has been taken out, I haven't seen that, although it's difficult to know. One of the things they're trying to do is ram this through so fast that there's a ton of things in this. You remember Nancy Pelosi famously said about Obamacare, you got to pass it to find out what's in it? That's very much the approach here. I mean, we've got our staff is reading through this, but there's all sorts of garbage buried here that people will find out weeks or months from now. $1.9 trillion is a ton of money. And so the plan, what Chuck Schumer wants to do is bring it up in the Senate tomorrow. Under the Budget Act, there are unlimited amendments. I think it is likely we will be there very, very late tomorrow, way into the early hours of the morning. And I got to tell you, Republicans are united. I think there's a good chance you will see no Republicans supporting this because this is not a good faith attempt at either defeating the virus or at getting the economy moving. It is a partisan wish list. A lot of Republicans, we're spending a lot of time discussing strategy about how to fight it. But at the end of the day, Schumer and Pelosi and Biden are just wanting to jam it through. I give you an example of that, by the way. So, Neera Tanden, who is Joe Biden's nominee to be the director of the Office of Management and Budget, although they withdrew the nominee yesterday. She had opposition from all the Republicans. Joe Manchin, a Democrat, came out against her. The one Republican who was considering voting for her was Lisa Murkowski from Alaska. And apparently she was negotiating, trying to convince the Biden administration not to destroy the oil and gas industry in Alaska. There are a lot of jobs in Alaska that depend on oil and gas, a lot of jobs in Texas that depend on oil and gas. Well, it appears the Biden administration decided they want to destroy those jobs more than they want their nominee, so they withdrew the nominee. And that really shows the political nature of this administration, that they're willing to give away your job if it satisfies their donors. And that's not what the president should be doing.
Well, that is really troubling. There's also trouble at the southern border. I mean, the executive orders around immigration, Axios reporting 117,000 unaccompanied migrant children expected to cross the southern border this year. That's up 45%. This morning, Fox News is learning that 108 migrants were released by Border Patrol, and they have tested positive for COVID-19 since January 25th. President Biden was asked about the situation at the border yesterday. Listen to what he said. Here it is.
Did you receive a briefing about the border today?
Yes, I did.
What did you learn?
A lot.
Is there a crisis at the border, sir?
Wow, Senator, it comes at a time that 13 people are dead this morning in California after a semi-truck collided with an SUV. In that SUV, 25 migrants in a car meant to hold 8 people. They jammed in these people in this SUV. They were illegal immigrants. Your reaction to what's taking place at the border? And real quick before we go, I got to get into cancel culture. I'm sure you saw the op-ed in the Journal today. Why did Amazon cancel Justice Clarence Thomas, okay? They took off a documentary about Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. There's that. This blacklisting and the censorship continues. First on the immigration story, Senator.
Well, there is a crisis at the border, and it is a human tragedy. I have spent a lot of time at the border. Of our 2,000-mile border, 1,200 of those miles are in the state of Texas. I've spent a lot of time with the men and women of the Border Patrol who are heroes who risk their life to keep this country safe. And we are seeing illegal crossings rising. We are seeing unaccompanied kids, those numbers go up dramatically. And that's directly connected to catch and release, which the Biden administration has moved back to, and to promises of amnesty. And you know, it was interesting during the Trump presidency, the news media couldn't stop covering kids in cages. You know, Heidi and I and our daughters had at an airport, we were in the L.A. airport, had a bunch of left-wing activists surround us screaming, kids in cages, you hate kids.
Right.
And I put it out, I said, well, those cages were built by Barack Obama. We don't care. They're terrible. Well, you know what? Joe Biden is expanding the cages because their policies are resulting in a whole lot more little boys and little girls being brought in by violent human traffickers who physically abuse these kids, who sexually abuse these kids. You pointed out the horrific accident in California, 25 people crammed into an SUV. This is horrific. It's not compassionate. What Joe Biden is doing, amnesty, catch and release, and encouraging illegal immigration, is not compassionate. It kills people. The people who are dead from that car wreck, it is the result of the Biden administration and Democrats' policies saying the more illegal immigration, the better. And the reason they say it is they look at illegal immigrants and they see potential voters for Democrats. It's all about politics. And it seems to me that we ought to focus on doing our jobs, keeping people safe, keeping kids out of cages. And the way you do that is ending the policies that encourage kids to be given over to human traffickers. That's not what the Biden administration is doing. You talk about cancel culture. Whoa. We're seeing big tech. We're seeing Amazon. We're seeing social media silencing any views they disagree with, taking off the air a terrific documentary about Clarence Thomas. Just yesterday on Dr. Seuss's birthday, the left is moving. Joe Biden pulled Dr. Seuss off of the agenda. Listen, what's going on? What is going on when the Cat in the Hat is deemed unacceptable? We have gone dramatically off course.
Yeah, and by the way, a couple of years ago, President Obama said all the stuff you need to know about equality is in Dr. Seuss. Google it, check it out, what President Obama said about Dr. Seuss and the Seuss books. Ted Cruz, it's always a pleasure. Thank you, sir. Senator, we'll be watching all of the above. Thank you.